implementation. When I'm not sure exactly how to spell a word, I just do that, and I figure I won't get caught because you can't read it. Right? Bless you. You guys need more coffee and things like that. Implementation. That is what we are going to speak about on Thursday, our last class. What do I mean by implementation? Max?
Like making the plan to what's doing that.
Perfect. Because you're going to make recommendations, and then you're going to organize them. And you're going to talk about prioritizing them, resource allocation. What do I mean by resource allocation? There's two main components to resource allocation. Travis, any idea? This is a hard one. Oh. Neil, what about you? Anyone? The two resources we have to figure out.
Would it be money and people?
Absolutely. Money, and what do you mean by people?
Like if you need to bring in outside companies to work on a marketing plan, for example, or
Yep.
necessarily like people within the business that you would put these extra tasks upon?
Yeah. So, expertise of people. So that's one sort of resource. Who's going to do it? And the second one is the financial or money. So I'm going to send Cam. I sent him some questions that someone asked me yesterday or the day before. And I'm going to ask him if they have a formal written down CSR strategy. And I'm also going to ask them a little bit of detail about their marketing organization. I'm going to do you guys the favor because I think that'll help you. And then I'd be done. Conclusion. If you want, sometimes a report needs a conclusion, sometimes it doesn't. Does that sort of make sense? Who understands that maybe as a guideline? Yes or no? Put up your hand, because if you don't, then I'm going to have to start all over again. Okay, good. So the majority, does that help you guys? Just sort of organize? Yes? Okay. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. Now, remember, you don't have to do it like that. You can do whatever you want. You could do an interpretive dance at the CN Tower. Stand there and you gotta laugh at that. Come on. That was actually pretty good, wasn't it? I've been waiting for the opportunity. I thought in the summer when I'm meeting with these guys, I'm going to be able to do this in class. I just have to wait for the perfect one. Nailed it. Okay, so that's that. Easy peasy. So, on Tuesday we tackled what the question is we were asking. I think we, again, worked up to a little bit of confusion and hopefully some order. And the end result was you having to go away and synthesize all that and make sense of it and come up with what that question is that these guys are looking for. Remember who you're writing the report for. You're writing for two people, for Cameron and John, and they're going to use it upwardly, up the chain to their boss, and whether it's the director of the CN Tower, who's their boss, or the marketing, or probably both, and present the best report or the best reports, or whatever you guys are saying. So we sort of know what's going on there. Today, I asked you to focus on two questions. So bring in some EBR analysis to show that this is a worthwhile effort. What role does ROI play in this project? Just as a bit more of a discussion point. So what sort of evidence-based research were you able to find? I did my homework.
I have a question.
Yes, a question.
You're going to request for them to send you what sustainable efforts they have written down. Can you also request for them to send the mission and vision statement if they have one?
Yeah.
And just to see if there's some sustainability connection.
Okay, why are you asking for the mission and vision statement?
Because if they're going in the direction of focusing on changing their reputation and using sustainability as a mechanism for that change, then it's probably pretty important that it encompasses some form of their vision or mission. Possibly, it's something to consider.
Yeah.
95% of restaurants have sustainability, I think, encapsulated in one of those two things nowadays.
That's pretty high.
In Stratford.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty high. So, the mission, what is a mission and what is a vision? Actually, the vision comes first. What is a vision? Sorry.
It's a direction which you can see yourself going.
Okay, perfect. So remember I used this back casting thing and I said, where do you want to be in 5 years? That's our vision, and here we are here, okay? And what are the things we're gonna do to get there? That's a strategy, but I'm gonna use the same model. The vision is where you wanna be. So their vision, if they don't already have one, they could change their vision to become the most sustainable restaurant in the world. The most sustainable restaurant in Canada, be recognized as the world global leader. Okay, you go on their website, and oh my God, under awards, it actually just has records that in 1975 when they opened, they were the Guinness Book of World Records largest building, and I think it's really lame. So they were always known for that, but now they're not. So they're known, they put on their website the largest building in the Northern Hemisphere, right? So, okay. Next it'll be North America and then Canada. So, you know, they might want to change their vision. What is a mission? So what is a mission? Go for it, yeah.
Mission is something that you try to do every day.
Perfect. Those are the things that you do every day to attain your vision. Okay, so the vision is to be the most sustainable restaurant in the world. The vision is each day we will practice a triple bottom line approach in everything we do. We'll consider our stakeholders, our consumers, the future, whatever, blah, 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 in all our decision making. And that is the mission. And if it's done every day, then we will attain our vision. Sometimes companies have values. What is it when a company has values? What does that mean? Brayden?
Things that they think are important to the company.
Perfect. Okay, things that they want to become part of their DNA or people to act. So, you know, Danny Myers, who you guys know Danny Myers, famous restaurateur. Anyways, his first is kindness. His first value for his organization is kindness. He wants to be a kind organization. Right? That's a value, being kind. Another one is integrity for him. Right? So, Joel is talking about ensuring or checking to see if there's some alignment in this effort with the overall organizational vision and mission. And alignment means, does this sort of fit in on that line somewhere in what this company is all about, or is it way off beat and way off track and not in alignment? Okay, so I think that's a good question. Did I write it down? I did. That's a good question to ask. So, evidence-based research. What evidence-based research things did you guys find out there?
In the article, I read that a consumer in a restaurant is more likely to continue coming back to a restaurant because they feel that their values align with the company's values. So in this chance, I guess it's like if your values going into the restaurant are to make sure that you're supporting your local community and getting the best quality that you can, then you would continue to go back there because that's what the company is promoting.
Okay. So let me just ask you some details about this article. Do you have the title, or do you have the
yeah.
journal it was in there?
It was in the International Journal of Hospitality Management from 2016.
Okay, so there's two things. We're going to talk about the sniff test. What do I mean when I talk about sniff test? What is that? It's an old man's term. What's a sniff test? You ever gone and found something at the back of your fridge and it looks a little questionable? It's in a Tupperware thing. You open the Tupperware. What do? Don't you? Yeah, why are you sniffing it? To see if it's good. That was a hard question. That's why you're sniffing it, right? Check it. So I would say that Collins' article passes the sniff test in that it's from a credible academic journal. And it's from 2016. What if it was from 1996? And was talking about consumers' perceptions of and values of green restaurants. All right.
The evidence could be outdated and things could have changed.
Would you guys agree with that? When you're talking about that, when you're talking about things like technology, you have to be cautious of the date of the work. So just be conscious. On a project like this, you know how on Google Scholar, I think, it's Google Scholar, it says you can just pick articles from 2014 or 2016 or 2018. And I usually just, if I'm doing a quick search, I just do 2014 and onward, and I don't look at the old stuff so much. And then if I can't find what I'm looking for, then I'll go back. So that is a great article, and what did you do? Just sort of read the abstract and get a sense, and then sort of go to the discussion, or?
Yeah, so it did like a whole research bit on like different focus groups, and so one focus group was going to a restaurant, and they were saying like the server was telling the guest about the efforts that the restaurant is putting in and how it affects that person, the guest, day to day, because it's in the local community. And so they then monitored afterwards the guest satisfaction with the restaurant and their likeliness to continue going back.
Cool. I put a dartboard up in my workshop in my cottage this year. My son and I have been playing lots of darts, so I'm going to use a dart analogy. Okay? That's the dartboard here. If I want to try to get a bullseye, do I have a better chance if I have one dart or if I have 10 darts to throw? This is a simple question. It's not a trick. Humor me, Jamie. 10. Okay? When you're doing research on something like this, you're amassing darts to try to make sure you nail, okay, the bullseye. When you write an academic paper, you might read 100 different articles, and so what you're doing is getting 100 darts to make sure you have a better chance of understanding. For you guys, I would think you need to read 10, 20, okay? And when I say 10 or 20 of these, I will be honest in telling you that what I do is I read the title, first of all, and then I read the abstract. Okay? And an abstract is a summary of the entire research. That's the thing you write last before you submit it. It's like an executive summary. So I've highlighted something here. Women tend to rate higher than men in all three categories of green attributes. Consumers in a family with at least one child value food-focused attributes more than those living in a household. Younger consumers are more willing to pay more. That is called willingness to pay. Wait longer and travel further to dine at a green restaurant. So then I'd say, okay, this article actually may have some value to me. And then I go to the discussion and implications or conclusion, which is the back of the paper. I will rarely, for something like this, I won't even look at the methodology, okay? And I probably won't look at the results, okay? And results in most of these papers are just basic descriptive statistics, things like regression, analysis, and I wouldn't expect you to know how to read them, okay? So I would just go to the conclusion or the findings. In this paper, it is number 5, discussion, and then it talks about theoretical implications and practical implications, which is probably more important for us out of those two. Practical, those are usually the ones for industry, and theory is more for other scholars that are working. So you can be done with this article in 10 minutes, right? And you'll have some interesting information. And what I'll do is I'll make some notes and I'll put it in a document, and then I'll go to the next one. And then I find, oh, okay, I'm sort of categorizing different ones. This one's about green dining. This one's about brand reputation, because that's something else I've been looking at. And it's just a matter of gaining more context, understanding the background, right? And that's that part of your paper that we're talking about. You need to show an understanding of the research and analysis that's out there on this sort of topic. So what other ones? Colin gave us our first one. Thank you, Colin. Echo, what did you find?
I found an article called Sustainability Label on Food Product Customer Motivation Understanding.
Okay, sustainable labeling of food products. Customer understanding and use? Motivation. Okay, so was that about restaurants, or was it about actual packaged food products or menu items? Or food package, okay, so a food package, so there might be some relationship there, but it might be a little off because packaged goods is a little different, but you gotta go through a lot of these to find the ones that are the darts, right? Who else found something? Yes, Courtney.
So I found an article about a study done in Australia, so obviously like the location demographic might be a little bit different, but I thought that the research was pretty relevant to what we're talking about and had a lot of really great charts to represent their data.
Yeah.
So basically they found that the majority of people expected restaurants to have some kind of like green practice in place. And when it comes to like who exactly is looking for green initiatives, kind of like that article that Bruce put up, it was saying that women over men usually prefer the green tendencies, but what was interesting is that actually men were willing to pay more for it. And something it also mentioned as well is when it's saying, like when they're thinking of a green restaurant, what comes to their mind, or like what exactly are they looking for? And the highest percentage of people said energy and water savings and waste reduction. So I thought that kind of like relevant to our case, it might be interesting to see like, okay, like what does the CN Tower do about those things? And if they do something that's great, then how can we communicate that? Because that's what people are really looking for. And then something else that I thought was interesting is that 78% of the customers that they studied said that they were willing to pay more, and the majority thought between 6 and 10% of an increase in price was appropriate.
And that's called willingness to pay. Was that a valuable piece of research for you to read?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. What is the title of that one?
It's really long. It's called Customers' Perceptions and Expectations of Environmentally Sustainable Restaurant and the Development of Green Index, the Case of the Gold Coast, Australia.
Cool. I haven't seen that one. That sounds like a really good one. It's interesting because they talk about how one of the most important attributes is energy reduction and waste reduction. And you know, they have those charts, the CN Tower, of the things they've done, and they have that Orca machine, et cetera, et cetera. But what their messaging is all about local food, right? Doesn't it seem to be what they're focusing? And it's interesting. We talked about plastic one-use items and food waste in that lecture. That is becoming more and more prevalent than other things, okay? And that might be an important thing. That research is important because that's what John and Cameron need to know. Because I guarantee you they probably think that showcasing their commitment to local is probably the most important thing, and it is, and in the research you'll see that it does play, food is important, but maybe as doing your contextual research, etc., you find that conveying and messaging the fact of all the things they're doing in waste reduction and energy usage, if they can do that, then that's even more important to consumers. Okay? That ties back to that article I had you read on evidence-based research. This is why it's really important. And can John and Cameron, first of all, nothing against them, they're brilliant people, but do you think they know what Google Scholar is? No, they won't know. And then even if they go on Google Scholar and they try to get these articles, can they get them? The majority are not what we call open access, right? Because you have to pay to get open access journals, all right? The researcher has to pay. So if I want my article to be open access, when none of mine are, I have to pay, right? So what happens if Cameron finds a study like that, even just through Google search, and he tries to download the PDF, what does it tell him? He's got to pay $35 for it or something, correct? And he's got to buy it. Okay, so that's really mitigating factor in people finding this information. They don't have access to this. This is where we can help. This is where you can help, right? This is where you can really add value. That sounds like an amazing article. And I hope you guys are writing it down. You know, I was speaking to Romina Dalla and Ruben Berga. Has anyone been taught by Romina or Ruben? No? They run the corporate social responsibility course and things, and we were communicating our experiences with people that are in the field of sustainability, and how bloody collaborative everyone is, and how it's not competitive. That's really true. If someone calls me up and they want to talk about food waste in their restaurant and things they can do, I will do anything I can. If they call me and ask me how they can improve their food delivery system, oh, forget maybe not, right? So, anyways, other articles. Those are two great articles right there. Other things you found.
I found one in the same journal as the first one, the hospitality management one.
Yeah.
It's from 2016. It's called Sustainability Communication, the Effect of Message Construals on Consumers' Attitudes toward green restaurants. And it talks about how you're portraying your message, whether it's more of like a local impact or a global impact, and how the consumers actually view that and how they'll process that information. So if there's more of a local impact, they're going to look more into it and start asking questions. But if it's
This is the article. It's a good one. It is a good one, isn't it? Sort of helps. Some of it, I'll be honest with you, some of these are a little bit above my pay grade. And I then go back and look at the methodology and try to, a lot of the modeling, I really don't get much into consumer behavior, and a lot of this is about consumer behavior. But this was a really, really good article that Jamie's pointed out. So, right now, how many darts do I have? I got 3. Read those 3 articles, you have a hell of a lot better chance hitting the target than if you read 1 article. And a lot better than if you don't read any. My expectation is exactly what your 3 colleagues have just shared, is they've gone, like I did last night, and found a dozen, 2 dozen papers to accumulate research, evidence-based research, to help in understanding the context and to be able to help have a better answer for these guys. Does everyone understand that expectation? That's important. Anyone not understand? Okay, so it's research. Anyone else? Those are 3 amazing examples so far.
I found an article, and its synopsis is basically a clever ad plus smart use of social media can produce a fresh identity even for a brand that many associate with their grandfather's deodorant. Old Spice didn't change its logo, it changed the experience. And there was an article written by Business Insider, which is a questionable source.
It is questionable, but let's talk about that.
I further dug deeper, and I found a report from the International Journal of Business, Humanities, and Technology on how Old Spice brand lives online from user-generated content.
Okay, so Business Insider is a big one for a lot of stuff, and these are these virtual libraries of information, some of which lead to something and some that are worthless. I was speaking to a student after the last class, and they heard a podcast, and on the podcast, the chap on the podcast had said, if you do this, your business will increase 50%, right? And it's like, okay, maybe not, right? And you have to be really, really, really cautious of that. But how many people just go and do that and say, oh, I heard it. It's on the internet. It's on a podcast. It's an expert. It must be true. So then if I understand correctly, what Joel has done is said, this is a little questionable whether this is right. So I'm going to go and find some stronger evidence-based work on this. Okay? One of the things that is challenging about social media and the academic literature is it takes you anywhere from 6 months to 5 years to get a paper published. It takes anywhere from 6 months to 3 years to do the work, right? So I'm doing one on sustainable seafood right now. I started last year. I'm collecting the data in a survey right now, and I'll write it up next summer. So it'll take me 2 years. Then I will submit it to a journal, and the way it works is peer reviewed. In 3 months to 6 months, they'll send it back and say either it's crap, we're not going to publish it, or we will if you have to do a few what we call revisions, which means you have to fix a little or justify your work, and then you send it back. So if it gets published, it'll probably get published in 2020. So there's a 4 or 5 year lag. And with something like social media in academic literature, social media changes daily, right? I can't keep track of things. In fact, I was speaking to Josh, my PhD student I work with. He just defended his PhD. He's a sessional instructor, and his expertise is in millennials and Gen Z and helicopter parenting and all that. And we were talking about how Gen Z is different than the millennials, and there's actually a little bit of a movement to move away from social media. Like a lot of the Gen Zs are deleting, they're not bringing their phones in as much, they're not on their phones, they're trying to move away from that, which was quite interesting. Anyway, I got way off topic there, sorry. What the hell is he talking about that? Okay, so that looks interesting, and that is one more of the messaging thing. So I would go down that road. We're going to talk about messaging now. Let me show you a couple other examples. Long-term benefits of organizational resilience through sustainable business practices. So one of the things, and this was in the Journal of Strategic Management from 2014. So one of the things that I was thinking about is, does this implementation of sustainable business practices, is it gonna help the business? So what their study showed that in the short term, profits didn't increase for companies that were practicing more sustainable business practices. But what they found in that over a 15-year period, the organization had more resilience, which means it's stronger. And there was also a link to increase in higher sales. So it's sort of a long-term strategy. And I think we made that comment, someone did, that this is a long-term thing, right? So this is evidence that I would use in my report, okay? Here it is. We show that firms that adopt responsible social and environmental practices relative to a carefully matched control group have lower financial volatility, higher sales growth, and higher chances of survival over a 15-year period. Yet, we were unable to find any difference in short-term profits. Okay? So, in my paper, I would write somewhere, having these efforts in business sustainability will lead to this, this, and this. That may be mitigated if you're not communicating and your customers don't know your messaging. And then I have another one for that, which is the paper Jamie said. Right? And then you can talk about messaging, and I go into a paragraph about that. So this is all gathering context. But it doesn't just have to be hospitality. Don't just get, hospitality is good for finding restaurants, but you can look in other journals about things like brand reputation, Old Spice, it's all good. All right, so that was good. You guys brought some work. For those of you who have done that, you're on track. If you haven't, you're a little bit behind, but you have the weekend. Okay, so I would work on going through those articles on the weekend and getting your darts. Amassing darts, collecting darts. As many as you have time to do. Okay? Let's move on to our second question. What methods of messaging are available to the CN Tower to promote their efforts in sustainability? So, how are they? How have they been? What are other methods to talk about what they're doing, help change people's perception, their reputation of the brand? I really like that old man, Old Spice thing. So what methods of messaging? Yes?
It's kind of like going back to the first question but then to the second, because now mine's just kind of, so
That's
kind of,
fine.
it's a question I'm asking.
Yeah.
But from an article that I found, which looked at green attitude and behavior of local tourists towards hotels and restaurants.
Ooh.
It's not in North America, it's actually in Indonesia, but it's from like a large city, so we can relate it to Torontoites. And they looked at just how the relationship between attitude of tourists towards green practices of hotels and restaurants, and to what extent it has impact on overall image of both of the services. So it wanted to look how the overall image of the hotel or restaurant will influence revisit intention, positive word of mouth, and willingness to pay for more environmental friendly hotels.
So read those three things again. positive willingness to pay, visitor retention,